You're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com.
The Liberty Flames mobile app is a must-have for game days. When you download the app, your access to Flames Nation is in the palm of your hand. Listen to our live Liberty Flames Sports Network audio broadcast. Click the Media tab, and under Audio, find the live broadcast in progress. Football, basketball, baseball, coaches shows, all right here. Purchase and manage tickets to the next Flames home game. Click the Tickets tab. Select Purchase Tickets. Then you have the ability to buy seats to the next game. Download those tickets directly to your device and scan them at the gate. Or select Manage Tickets to download your previously purchased tickets or parking pass. Transfer or sell your tickets easily through the Manage Tickets button. Download the Liberty Flames mobile app today from your App Store or Google Play.
Welcome to the NAZSCAR podcast with Nick Pierce. Don't worry, there's no lap, traffic, or caution flags here. Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough are here to bring you the latest on Liberty Flames basketball and mid-major hoops. Now, let's get to it. Here's Nick, Naz, and Scar.
Welcome back into another edition of the NAZSCAR podcast. You're on the Liberty Flames podcast family. I'm Nick Pierce, joined by Naz and Scar. Paul Nazigian, Tim Scarborough back here with us as always this week. Time to talk some more Flames basketball. A lot to get to this week. Huge matchup looming for Liberty on Wednesday night in Raleigh, North Carolina, when the Flames will take on the NC State Wolfpack. Got a game to recap before we get to that, and we'll have a Scar Watch a little bit later on. We'll have a NAZDAQ report. Both those segments are back here with us this week. So glad that you would stop by and hang out here with us. Again, part of the Liberty Flames podcast family presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling. Appreciate all the interaction on social media as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, or X, I guess, formerly known as Twitter. We're always talking Flames hoops. We're happy to take your questions, your comments. Let us know what you think of the show. We'll get to as many of them as we can each and every week. But, guys, good to see you again. Trust that you had a good week. A little bit of a short week here. You know, you have kind of that half week, you know, when teams come off the game. You're talking NFL. You come off a game Sunday, then you got to play again on Thursday. I think we taped, Wednesday last week, and now we're coming back here on a Monday. Short week of prep. How'd you guys handle it? How'd your team handle it here this week?
Yeah, full go, full pads, just, we're going hard, there's no rest.
Tackle drills and everything right now.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's the rust versus rest scenario, right? We're not going to be rusty, but do we have enough rest? That's the question.
Yeah, I asked you a similar thing, Scar, last week, bringing it back to basketball here with Liberty. Would there be any rust coming out in that game on Saturday? Quickly found out that was not the case. Flames jumped out, what was it, a 35-3 lead or something like that over Coppin State this past weekend?
Yeah, and Scar and me sort of said that. Just, again, that's sort of one of the things that Liberty's done well. They just sort of, they prepare, they're ready, and I think we both kind of thought they'd be sharp after that rest and everything, and they sure were, man. And it's funny, I kind of, and I know, you guys do this too. You try to watch a team as they warm up, and, I just kind of watch the guy. Again, it's not an exact science, but, man, just hearing what they were saying and just watching them go through warm-ups, I just felt like, man, these guys were just ready just to be fit to be tied. And sure enough, man, we threw the ball up. They were just jumped all over Coppin State.
Yeah, Flames came out, big lead early, and just kind of pulled away. It ended up, by the end of the game, you had 4 in double figures, 92-50 win. It was 55-14 at halftime. Thing was never in doubt. Brett Decker Jr. ends up with 20 points, 6 threes for him. That's his 5th 20-point game of the year. 16 apiece for Josh Smith and J.J. Harper. A couple guys we'll talk about here in a minute. Caden Matheny, 4 threes. He ends up with 13 points. Did it all without Colin Porter. He had to sit. He's been dinged up lately. He's been nursing a hamstring over the last couple of weeks. Coach McKay saying he's day-to-day. And we learned a little bit more about Isaiah Enan as well. We'll table that for the moment, though. Get to that in a couple minutes. But, Naz, I'll kind of get your thoughts. How did the team function without Colin Porter. Looked like the assist numbers didn't really suffer. They still had 28 assists on 36 made baskets.
Yeah, and again, that's sort of was a concern a little bit, and he's just such an important part and such a mainstay in Liberty basketball through his tenure. But yeah, they really, they just kind of rolled with it, and I think some of that is the maturity of the team. They certainly have the group of returners that set a great tone and know what to do if a guy's down or in foul trouble or something like that. Some of it is the interchangeability of Liberty and how they play. So, you saw, Decker get the ball in his hands a little bit more. Xander Carter did a good job. And then really, like the backup point guard is really Zach Cleveland, so, he gets up there.
I'd say he's the primary point guard.
Come on now.
He forward. He handles the ball
like that.
Yeah, I don't know. He handles the ball more than anybody on the team. So
yeah, I mean, he's certainly it's either way. Like if Colin's bringing it up, they get into offense. If Zach's bringing it up, they flow right into offense. So no, you're right, Nick. It didn't. I mean, the offense looked really great, namely by obviously the scoring, but also the assists, and again, just everybody really. Pretty early on, you knew that it was, like Liberty was all over them, and they just, were not going to put up much of a fight, Coppin State. But again, that's when I kind of watch things. Like, is it going to get kind of loose and just sloppy? And it did not. I mean, those guys were locked in for all 40 minutes. Whoever touched the floor knew what their job was, did it. So it's that kind of stuff, again, that shows an experienced team, a mature team, and a team that's ready for their next test.
Yeah, I concur, and I think about just looking at the box score to underscore what I was saying about Zach Cleveland. He had 13 assists.
Yeah.
In that game in 26 minutes, and that's the other thing that jumps out is that the Liberty starters didn't have to play, and no one played more than 28 minutes. Brett Decker played 28. Cleveland played 26. Harper only played 22, but he's the one starter that isn't logging as many minutes as the other four. But as you said, Naz, I'm sure it was very obvious from the opening tip that Liberty was the superior team. And we kind of knew that on paper with Coppin coming off of that big loss at West Virginia, 91-46, I believe. And Coppin, is a team that's struggling. And we also talked about this on last week's show. It doesn't matter who Liberty plays. Richard McKay holds them to a standard that you're going to be sharp, you're going to take care of the basketball, you're going to run our sets, you're going to get high percentage shots. Now, I can't guarantee you're going to make those shots, but we're going to get you in position to take those shots. And this team may be the most efficient Richie McKay team we've seen over the years. When you think about the 55% shooting as a team from the field, 43% from three as a team. If one kid on your team is shooting 43%, you're ecstatic. If you're shooting 43% from downtown as a group, Liberty is literally shooting better from three than other teams are shooting overall. They're giving up 42% from the field, and they're shooting 43. So that is a formula that's going to carry over into Conference USA. If they can continue shooting at that clip, there's going to be, they're going to win a lot of games. We all know that. They're going to compete for a championship. We know that. There's going to be nights, though, where those shots don't fall. And the real test of this team is going to be, can you win on those nights when the three-point shot isn't falling?
Yeah, I think consistently that's been the case throughout the years. I wanted to ask you, too, Josh Smith, we talked about needing to get some guys involved that Liberty was just playing the starters a lot down in Orlando. We knew that, but Josh Smith is a guy that Coach McKay said he's coming along. Well, he plays 22 minutes. I think that was a season high for him the other day against Coppin State, 16 points, 8 of 10, highly efficient day. Naz, what you saw of the guys, not the everyday guys, if you will, the usual suspects, if you will, the Xander Carters, the Josh Smiths, the J.J. Harpers. Did you get enough of a glimpse of them the other day? Do you feel like those guys are starting to come on and getting closer to contributing?
Yeah, I think so. And then again, just to start with Josh Smith, he got the start with Porter being out, and yeah, I mean he was like instant impact. So Coppin State, just in scouting them, they play this kind of extended 2-3 zone, and two things happened right away. Liberty hit a couple threes because their coverage out of that zone wasn't good, and then maybe the more important thing was Josh Smith found seams in that zone to where penetration, and he kind of would curl underneath the zone, and he made a couple really nice baskets that just hurt him. And actually, the first possession of the game, he gets an offensive rebound, and so he was able to score right away. They had to come out of the zone. They ended up trying to play man, but he had a really good night, scoring, rebounding, playing defense. Just you could see him kind of getting more comfortable. But yeah, JJ Harper. We did a little halftime segment on him and just kind of how he has just fit in so perfectly. And on different nights, he's just so versatile. He can score some nights. We've seen him go off the dribble. We've seen some pretty exciting, dunks up at the rim. He hit a couple threes the other night. And so, yeah, he looks just in really great shape, fitting right in. And then, a few other guys got in, again, just valuable minutes. And there was a great chance. You don't know what'll happen Wednesday night, but you got another game next week with Midway where some of these guys will get a little more minutes and more comfortable. So coach and the staff are bringing these guys along, and they're showing progress each time they get out there.
Saw Isaiah Enan on crutches on the sideline the other day. That was brought up in the post-game press conference. Coach McKay saying he would get evaluated within 24 hours. It's obviously been 24 hours since then, but we don't have any further word on his assessment or his prognosis, I guess, other than Coach McKay just said that they were going to have to reevaluate. He got hurt again, I guess, was what Coach said in the post-game presser, and you just feel for that guy. I mean, Isaiah Enan has just been through so much throughout his career. You just feel like his body's betraying him almost. I mean, there's so much talent in there, and he's a difference maker when he's healthy. We don't know what the prognosis is. We certainly hope for the best. But if that's a guy that is not able to help Liberty this year, Scar, I mean, how do you assess how that affects Liberty? How do they overcome that loss? So they certainly did last year, winning a conference championship.
They did, and it would have been still an easier road had they had the services of Isaiah Enan, because we saw what he could do when healthy. The first 9 games he played last year, right at the end, those last 2 games in particular, he was double guy, right? Getting putbacks, dunks, going off the dribble. He showed a little touch on the perimeter as well. He was an interior presence. He was a nice 1-2 punch with Aquino. But the reality is, I don't think Liberty was depending on him to come back. It was more about him, in my opinion. They were giving him an opportunity because he deserves that opportunity. His whole career has been marred with injuries, unlike most you've ever seen, honestly. Pretty much every single season, this, I believe, is his 6th year of college basketball, and he's had knee injuries multiple times. So you just feel, as you said, Nick, you feel bad for the kid more than Liberty basketball. Liberty basketball will be fine without him. He certainly would have been an asset. But again, you mentioned Smith coming on strong now, gives them some size. If Enan's able to get back on the court, God bless him. I hope he does. But if not, Liberty will, they have a contingency. As you mentioned before, the same thing happened last year, and Liberty went on to win Conference USA regular season and the championship. So.
Yeah, and one other guy I need to mention, Ryan Jones came in and did some really nice work. And again, a guy that creates some matchup problems because he's the 5 and can step out, and he's shown he's got a nice stroke from 3. But in the Coppin State game, he had some nice possessions, banging around inside, and defensively too. So. Everybody certainly we're watching and praying for Zay, but if he doesn't make it back, that's another guy in Ryan Jones that can step up and give him some interior help along with Josh Smith.
Well, Richie McKay said it after the game Saturday. No one cares, about you and your injury situation. No one's going to feel sorry for you. You got to just keep grinding, keep going. It's next man up. Now, we saw last year a byproduct of Enan's injury. Talon Peter all of a sudden started getting more minutes and emerged as the sixth man of the year in Conference USA, and now he's playing in the NBA. So I'm not saying that necessarily someone's going to emerge and go on to the NBA next year.
Yeah, who's next?
Could. Don't want to set that expectation, but you never know. You never know who's going to take the baton and run with it, so to speak. So turn your sights forward now. You got NC State coming up on Wednesday. Flames fans always get excited for these games, as well they should. It's always fun to play up. As Coach McKay says, you find out who you're not a lot of times in these games. Taking on an NC State team that's 6-3, 5-0 at home, picked fourth in the ACC preseason poll behind Duke, Louisville, and UNC, respectively. We talked about it last week. A new head coach in Will Wade, no stranger to him. Spent the last 2 years at McNeese, took them to the round of 32 last year. A team that Liberty actually beat last year in the Virgin Islands, went to the round of 32, 28 victories. They are at 42 right now on the net. I think 37 I saw on the Ken Palm right now. So basically a top 40 team with only two guys back from their entire roster last year. Coach Wade did a phenomenal job in the transfer portal, I think, as everyone expected. But they're scuffling a little bit right now. They started 4-0. They've lost 3 out of their last 5, albeit to Auburn, Texas, and Seton Hall. But they got a win over Asheville the other day. Scar, I'll start with you. What do you make of the Wolfpack coming into this game?
Well, I've seen them a few times, and, their style of play is reminiscent of VCU of old. And, of course, Will Wade was a Shaka Smart assistant. But, even when he went to Chattanooga and LSU, he still kind of was an aggressive defensive coach. So, they'll pressure Liberty the whole time. They extend their defense 2-2-1 3/4, 2-2-1 full, 1-2-2 full. They'll drop back in the zone. They'll drop back in the man-to-man. They'll really mix up their defenses, but they're trying to create, for lack of, sorry, Shaka, they're trying to create havoc. Right? I know that's branding from VCU back in the old day, but that's really what they're trying to do. They're trying to disrupt. How about that? They're trying to create disruption. And they do a solid job of that, but not to the liking of Will Wade at this point. Now, they played Asheville the other night. They only won by 12. They played Liberty coming up. You mentioned those losses to some of those Power Fives, and they have another Power Five looming on Saturday. Kansas is coming into town. So, this might be a good time to play them if they start to overlook Liberty. If it was another team, I'd say that would be a good possibility. But Will Wade is very familiar with Liberty and certainly familiar with Richie McKay. So he won't allow his team to take this Liberty team for granted. And if you watch the film, you shouldn't. If you look at the numbers, you shouldn't. This is a very efficient and potentially explosive Liberty team at times. This game will be won at the defensive end, though. Will Wade, if North Carolina State allows Liberty to come in and shoot the percentage that they're shooting on average, I think Liberty can actually win the game. But that's easier said than done, because you're going to have athletes on the perimeter, and they're going to be aggressive. It's kind of going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be like Alabama was to Liberty and some of these other teams, Oregon. It's not going to be like that. Liberty can compete with some of these mid to lower level ACC teams and possibly beat them. So I'm expecting a good game, but it's going to be hard. It's always hard to go on the road. It's always hard to play up. But Liberty is certainly capable of going in on Wednesday night. I'll be tuned in, ACC Network. I cannot wait for this game.
Yeah, maybe just to start, you guys sort of mentioned this, but I think just to re-hit it again, like we got to give Will Wade a shout out, because he is a guy who will play Liberty, is not afraid to schedule Liberty. And I respect that. And I know Flames Nation, we need to appreciate that. Like, it's so hard to get quality games. The big boys run away. They don't want any part of Liberty. But Will Wade's been straight up, and, all the way from VCU, LSU, McNeese. I know we met him in the tournament, but now scheduling again when we need games. So, respect to Coach Wade and not backing down and taking on the Flames. So, when they go down there Wednesday, I think again, bigger picture, we talked a little bit about this last week. Like, again, we all three of us are, we know Liberty's got what it takes. They're going to go down there and give them all they want. I think the end result is probably a little less important than how they play. And I think,
Agreed.
Coach McKay is really and you saw it, the message was received that week they were back in town preparing for Coppin State. You saw a real locked in, focused team on the defensive end. And of course, the shooting was there. Again, you go on the road, hostile environment against an ACC opponent. Liberty will get looks. We know that. They have such great ball movement, and they'll get looks whether they fall. Yes,
they should get looks.
I think they'll get the looks, but again, will they be sped up a little bit? You got longer arms on contests and things like that. So we'll see. But I think the real measuring stick is going to be, how does Liberty look on defense against a team that likes to score and pressure and score? So that, I think, again, the big picture is, can you get better? Is Liberty going to get better coming out of Wednesday? So we'll watch how Liberty defends, and then we'll see where we stand.
Well, and you hit on something there too. I mean, you talk about should get looks and the athleticism, the size on the perimeter. I mean, you're talking about, a guy in Darian Williams, who's the preseason player of the year, 6'6", 225. You're talking about Paul McNeil Jr. He's one of the only two returning players on this team, but 6'5", 190, averaging 12 points a game. Quadir Copeland, McNeese transfer, after spending his first 2 years at Syracuse, he's actually having a career year this year, averaging 14 points a game. So, I mean, they've got, Trey Holloman, 6'2", senior Michigan State transfer. And then they've got some guys on the offensive end, going back to your point on the defense for Liberty. These guys can fill it up. I mean, Williams, 48%, 20 made threes from downtown. Then you got Holloman, he's 18 made threes, shooting 55% from downtown. This is going to stretch Liberty's defense, but guys, I think if they move the ball, going back to the offensive end, if they move the ball the way that we've seen them, you're going to need Colin Porter. I think you're going to need Colin Porter out there.
I can't believe that you didn't talk about Quadir, my guy from Philly, Quadir Copeland, 6'6", 203 pounds.
I mentioned him.
Syracuse.
I mentioned him.
You talked about him, but
I glossed over him too much for you. He's a Philly guy.
Second leading scorer on the team, and he's a Philly guy, so you got to give him his love. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned they have weapons. It's going to be about execution at both ends for Liberty, right? Can they get those shots? Can they shoot in that environment? It's a road game. It's going to be 10,000, 12,000 people there. Can you play cohesive basketball? And you mentioned Colin Porter. I think you have to get Colin Porter back in the mix to have a chance. You have to have Josh Smith play a solid game in the paint, because they do have some size. So you don't want to get ground up on the boards, them shooting until they make it. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be taking it to the basket. So you want some rim protection. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome, as is the case when you play a money game and you play on the road, including the referees, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right, Nick. Yeah, to your point with Porter, I don't know his status. I think he's kind of day to day, and man, that's going to be a tough call. Again, here we sit here, and I know that kid wants to play, and we probably want him to play. But if he's not ready, I would not risk. I wouldn't risk it. It's a hamstring kind of thing, and big picture. So.
Well, here's what you run into, right? I mean, like you said, big picture, I think you sit that guy until he is 100% ready to go, because you don't want to make something worse now that's going to cost him time in January or February when you need him. The only thing that you're up against, it's not an at-large situation. We've already talked about that. Right. But if you win Conference USA, you want to have something to hang your hat on when the selection committee's looking at you, and you're trying to potentially get off that 13-14 seed line and get yourself in a position to win a tournament game. Now, I know you can't manage games like that as far as guys' health and because you still got to get there, right? And you got to put yourself in the best position to get there. But those are the things that you're looking for. It's like, man, it would be really nice to get one of these, either an NC State or a Dayton, just to have something when it comes March, right?
Of the two games, I think NC State is the more winnable one. Dayton's home court advantage, fellas, you'll go to see. the intensity of that crowd is really, I've seen bigger, stronger, faster teams than Liberty go in there and have a hard time winning.
Yeah,
And
did I see they're like 8-1 or something also or something like that?
yeah,
I don't have the thing right in
they
front of me.
played Virginia pretty well
Yeah.
for a while
Yeah,
on
that
over the
game was in
weekend.
Charlotte at the
Yeah.
Hornets Arena this past
Right,
Saturday.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlotte and Virginia had a lot of fans there because of the football game that you were at, Nick, calling that as the PA announcer for the championship. And I don't want to talk football, but man, UVA's got to win that game, right? I mean, you got a 75 Duke. Wow.
I think if the Virginia fans could have traded, they would have probably took that loss to Dayton,
Right,
in exchange for the
took
ACC title.
win. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, what a day that was for Cavalier fans, right? No, but yeah, these are games you'd love to have, but I mean, if you're Richie McKay, like to your guys' point, I mean, you've got to be judicious in how you handle this, and something else you guys brought up, or one of you did a minute ago, talking about a rim protector and avoiding easy buckets. I mean, Van Allen Lubin is a load, guys. I mean, UNC transfer, 6'9", 250. The other day, game high 23 points against UNC Asheville, 9 of 11 shooting, had a really nice dunk that got a lot of social media pub. I mean, how in the world do you contend with that guy?
He's shooting 60% from the field too, 59.3. So, yeah, I think you don't let them catch it close to the basket, and you don't let them clean the glass. So you have to do those two things. Zach Cleveland has been more than up to the task against bigger and stronger players. Think about the FAU.
Yeah, they'll
game.
probably double the post or certainly go down and dig it out and then scramble out of it. But
I don't know that they throw it in there though. I mean, he gets a lot of his points off of stick backs, and then honestly some transition because he's a dunker.
Right.
Yeah. He had 5 offensive rebounds the other day against Asheville. To your point,
he goes to get it, and that's where he goes. He goes to find his points. So but Naz, if they do throw it in there, and not many people are going 4 out 1 in, or certainly not 3 out 2 in. But when you got a guy like that, you have to. But he'll still be out on the perimeter setting screens and diving to the basket, and that's where you have to worry about him. And when the shot goes up, him crashing in, climbing over people's backs. And that's hard to defend sometimes too. I watched Kennesaw do that on a possession-by-possession basis the last two nights I watched them play.
Yeah, and I thought Will Wade had a really good quote about him the other night, talking about Lubin, said that he does a good job of always being in the play, but not ever being in the way. Is that what they said about you, Scar, when you were playing? You were never in the way?
I was always in the way. Come sit next to me. You're in the way.
Well, it's going to be a great challenge for Liberty on Wednesday night. I mean, we could sit here and keep on going and going about all the different things to watch. I'm curious to see if NC State comes out and plays with that edge that Will Wade was talking about before the Asheville game. If they start to kind of get to it the way that he wants them to, particularly on the defensive end. You guys talk about all the different the pressures that they like to implement, and they're giving up some transition points because they're not really implementing that defense the way that they want. And if you look at some of their losses, that's been the case. But we'll see what happens. 7:00 Wednesday night, Lenovo Center in Raleigh. I'll be in the building. Naz, you going to be there? You going to be able to make it? Do you know yet?
No, I don't think I will be able to after all.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be holding up I'll be holding up the NASCAR sign. I'm going to make one of those poster boards at home.
There you go.
Yeah.
So get down there at midcourt, just hold that up. Or who's calling the game on TV? I should be like one of those idiots that goes and stands behind the announcers when they're doing
the open.
NASCAR podcast.
I've had people like you standing behind me many times. They don't do that at Liberty much, do they, Naz?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the night. We got a few minutes left. Let's get to this week's Scar Watch. How about that?
All right. Well, I mentioned Kennesaw. Kennesaw is definitely on my Scar Watch, and here's why. They're good enough to win Conference USA. We saw what they did in football last weekend. They won Conference USA out of the blue. They're not going to come out of the blue in basketball because we all know what they are. Liberty played them in the A-Sun Championship a couple of years ago on their floor in a very close game. Darius McGee's last conference game. But when I watch that team, the thing I notice is their energy, but more importantly, they score every possession. They're scoring 97.2 points per game. They're very efficient, and that's something we haven't said about Kennesaw. We say they'll take a lot of shots, but they're not going to make a lot of shots. Well, let me tell you, they're making those shots now. They manhandled Georgia State on Saturday, winning by over 28 points, and it wasn't that close. And they were just better. They have two freshman guards that come off the bench. Cottle was in foul trouble the whole game on Saturday. Only had played 13 minutes, and then he played a few minutes down the stretch. So they didn't need him. He was in foul trouble. But they have Darius Washington III, and if fans of Memphis may remember Darius Washington Jr. played for Memphis back in the early 2000s. His son is a freshman, silky smooth, 6'5" guard, can stroke it. They have another guard named Ricard who is 6'6", and he comes off the bench. And those two guys come off the bench and give them an amazing spark. And you add Braden Liu, preseason all-conference player, and Simeon Cottle. They get to the rim, and they defend too. I mean, they are a really good Conference USA team. And they have a lot of focus, and I'm sure, they're thinking revenge. And they don't miss Adrian Woolley. And that's hard to say. A freshman kid that averaged 18.8 points a game last year. And they did better by retaining Cottle and bringing in some of those new guys. They are gelling early. They're 8-2 at the top of Conference USA. Mark January 2nd on your calendar. They're coming to Lynchburg. I know the students won't be there, but the country, certainly a conference, will be watching Lynchburg early in the year to see, that's going to be a real tone setter for the remainder of the year. That early matchup between Kennesaw and Liberty. Kennesaw on my SCAR watch this week.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure. And Liberty will be coming off a conference opener at FIU in Miami earlier that week, and then I think they got Jack State 2 days later in Lynchburg.
That's right.
After that Kennesaw game, that's a really tough week for the Flames to open up conference play. One more piece of business to get to here, Naz. How about a NAZDAQ report?
All right, on this. I guess it's our first NAZDAQ of the year. I got a stock watch.
Is this the first one?
I think it is.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
it's the second one, Naz.
Second one, okay.
Just say it with conviction. It's your first. Let's go.
Right. It's the first one that matters.
Yeah.
First one that matters. All right, so this is definitely a stock watch, and this is a blue chip stock that I think you guys are going to want to chime in on this one because I don't know where this one's going. It's something you can bank on, but I don't know lately. And this stock is Kentucky basketball. What is happening in Kentucky? And I know you guys have seen this, and we can talk about it here a little bit for these last few minutes. But I'm telling you, there is unrest in Big Blue Nation. In fact, they booed them off the court. They lose by 29 to Gonzaga. And, they're 5-4, but the record is far from the issue. There is just complete, the fan base is like, there's no heart, there's no hustle, there's no fight. And, man, some of the press conferences, Mark Pope just looks dejected and just beside himself. Have you guys seen some of this? And where do you think it's going? Are they done? Are they tanking, or can they make their stock rise more used to what we're seeing?
Well, luckily they're in the SEC. Last year they took 14 of their 16 teams, so they'll probably make the NCAA tournament. But I think it is about the record, Naz. They're used to being 9-0, 10-0, 15-0, 15-1, maybe a loss to a blue blood by 1 point. They're not used to getting beat by 29 to mid-major. That doesn't happen. Gonzaga going in there and beating them like that.
But Gonzaga's not a mid-major.
Okay, I agree. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But nonetheless, they're not in a power group of four or a power four team. So I would say anytime. I think an NBA team should be the only team that beats Big Blue Nation by 30-plus points. There's not a college team in the country that they can't play with in the past. This version, Mark Pope, he could be in a lot of trouble because they've run out people out of town like Rick Pitino and Tubby Smith and John Calipari. So they don't really care about Mark Pope. I know he's one of theirs, a former player, But that's an interesting stock. But I'm not giving up my blue chip stocks. You don't give those up. They're going to go back up at some point. So I'm locking in on that one, Naz. I'm not going to give up on it.
Yeah, I'm not selling yet.
No.
I'll say this. This is not even the worst moment in Kentucky basketball in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
you guys
true.
forgotten the Billy Gillespie days? Have you guys forgotten
have
losing at Rupp Arena to Gardner Webb?
Oh,
you guys forgotten that?
And VMI.
And VMI. Yeah. This too shall pass, Big Blue.
And where is he now? Right.
It's a great question. Get out your Wikipedia.
That's right. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it's going to come back up. It certainly hit a low, not an all-time low, but a low. And I thought that was interesting this past week. And I know you guys saw some of the press conferences and things. So we'll have to keep an eye on Kentucky, Big Blue Nation.
Oh no, you're right. I mean, they're in distress, and I think Mark Pope realized it probably after that Michigan State game. You're talking about some of the post-game stuff. I mean, I think you could kind of see it on his face that he realized.
Wearing it. He's wearing it.
He's got some coaching that he's got to do with this bunch, and they were not as far along as he thought. We'll see where they end up, but yeah, I to your guys' point, I mean, they're going to have a lot of opportunities in the SEC. They're only going to get better as the year goes. I think they'll be fine.
His name is Pope. But he doesn't have a prayer this year, I fear.
I don't think it's going to take a miracle for him, put it that way.
Right.
That'll wrap it up for this week's NASCAR podcast. Thanks so much for stopping by, part of the Liberty Flames podcast family. Presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com. A little chilly outside, some snow on the ground. Make sure that HVAC system is working for you. We're always working for you here at the NASCAR podcast. For Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough, I'm Nick Pierce. We'll talk to you next week.